BFFs. So welcome back to Bff Beauty's YouTube channel. Today I'm doing something just a little bit different. So we've been doing our Folklore Fridays, and in my Folklore Fridays I came across a topic, the Colorado cults, or the cults of Colorado. And I was doing quite a bit of research on this, and there is a lot to research. I think we could probably have a YouTube channel just based on that topic alone. But in this topic, I found that there were a lot of cold cases in Colorado, some that are connected, they think, to these cults, and some that are not. So that dawned an idea. I thought, why not do Colorado cold cases with Ctina? So I came across a very local cold case that I thought was worth mentioning and starting off with. So today we're going to talk about a 5'11", 145-pound, 17-year-old boy named Roger John Ellison, and he came up missing from Cedar Edge, Colorado. So this is how the story goes. Roger boarded the bus to head to school on February 10th, 1981, wearing his light blue nylon parka. He got to school. He talked with a buddy, his locker mate, because they shared lockers at this small town school in Cedar Edge. And he deposited his books there, and that is the last time anybody has ever seen him. So, scary situation. Your kid goes off to school and then disappears from school. So initial thoughts are, he ran away with a girlfriend or something of that nature. But Roger didn't have any girlfriends. He was kind of a loner. He liked to work part-time jobs and save money. He was an avid skier. He competed in ski competitions all over Colorado. He had a ski competition coming up that next weekend after he came up missing. And he left all the money from his bank account. He left his car, he left his motorcycle, he left his skis, he left all of his clothing behind. So his family just did not buy this runaway story that initially the police were thinking. Upon looking at it a little further, they realized that he was probably abducted and probably met with foul play pretty directly, is what they thought. So, story gets kind of sad from there. Not really any people of interest, they ask around and whatever, and for whatever reason, a person of interest was his social studies teacher, who was also a wrestling coach, and his name was Posh, last name Posh, Mr. Posh. So we can talk a little bit about Mr. Posh too, because there's a lot going on with him. They believed this teacher was a suspect because he lived close to the school, and Roger had gone to his house on multiple occasions supposedly to take homework assignments over there, or just to speak with his teacher about some things. So there was some erratic behavior that kind of started from Mr. Posh, and it was like he immediately started saying things like Roger came over to speak with him about issues that he was having, and he deemed Roger to be suicidal. His reason behind this stemmed from some counsel that he had given him over his issues. He never elaborated on those. And a troubling paper that he had written on the topic of Freud, although he never elaborates on that either. I can imagine if that is something that they considered evidence to whatever his demise was, they probably asked him not to talk about it a lot, is my guess. But this immediately came out about him, and he posted, over the years, he's posted many blogs on websites, and he even has his own blog concerning this situation with the disappearance of Roger. So he has a blog, and he talks on Web Sleuths about it, just basically stating that he is innocent of all these things that people are thinking he did. And I say all these things because Roger's sister came out saying that the teacher had inappropriate contacts with students that included sex and drugs. Now we're talking 1981, so drugs meaning marijuana to them up in small town Cedar Edge at that time. And she didn't elaborate. She alluded to that being the reason that she felt Roger, or that people felt Roger had him, but she did not actually come out and say that Roger did drugs and had sex over there. She just said that he had inappropriate contact with students that involved drugs and sex. That is her understanding of him. So I'm not sure who really got Mr. Posh involved as a person of interest, whether it be the family or the sheriff's department. Either way, he was thrown in the mix of things. Which, if he's already like hanging out and partying with these guys, like the whole wrestling team and students and so forth, then he's somebody that they should probably be checking out, not just in the disappearance, but in what's going on with these kids. So, no leads, nobody knows anything about Roger, and it goes on like that. His parents comb the state, they look at hitchhikers, they drive every highway, all over town, every mountain. They go to ski meets. They do everything they can in the months that follow. But every single day, his dad waits when that bus comes to see if his son gets off of it. And he continued doing that until he died, which was only a couple months after Roger disappeared. So he died of heart failure, but a lot of people in town say he really died of a broken heart, which would seem understandable under the circumstances. So that's just a really sad situation. There was a break in the case in 1991. Hunter, on his deathbed, saying that he needed to clear his conscience. He stated that he saw Roger that day on the mesa while he was hunting, and his wrists were bound, and a man was standing over him with a rifle. And this man carried on. He didn't intervene, he didn't get involved, and he could not live with himself that he had done that. So he told them that shortly after he passed them, he heard a gunshot. So he was certain that was Roger, and he was certain that that was the demise of Roger. So they went searching the area, and they did find remains, but they could not be positively identified as Roger, but they did identify some remains that they found up there as a missing hiker that had gone missing the previous winter. So some of the remains, but there were many scattered remains. So, anybody that had died over the years, or who knows where, or what kind of bones, there was probably a lot to sort through. But they did not positively identify Roger's remains. That was 1991. In 1994, a former classmate of Roger's came forward and said that he really believed that Roger's body was buried under the former teacher's house and that they should check there. So in following that lead, the police went and did some ground penetrating radar searches, and they did find some crazy anomalies. But probably due to expenditures or the homeowners not wanting to tear up the home, they could not do the search. However, Mr. Posh sold the home and kind of skated out of state to California under a cloud in 1984. So 3 years later, he just took off. Quietly, mind you. Which, if you were being accused of the disappearance or murder of a kid and you were a teacher, you'd probably try to quietly leave too. Especially if you were innocent and it was, causing problems. I'm not saying he is or isn't innocent. I'm just stating what's going on with this cold case. So they didn't do any digging, even though they found anomalies under the garage. Obviously, the new homeowners don't want them to demolish their garage, so they probably didn't get to dig there because of that. Which that kind of sucks, because we could have had answers there, but then we didn't. And the fact that all these years have gone on and we still don't know what's going on, Mr. Posh, however, he went on to California and continued teaching until he recently retired. But he has tons of blogs out there. You guys can get on Web Sleuths and see what he thinks about that. But the saddest part is that Excuse me. The saddest part is that Roger's parents both died not knowing exactly what was going on with him. Exactly where he went, what happened. Now, there's a lot of people in town who are like, oh, you know, he just took off and he killed himself and that's all there is to it. But many people don't believe that. Especially, why would a hunter on his deathbed make up a story that wasn't true? To clear his conscience that he did not intervene or do anything about the death of a young person, which he said himself was obviously a teenager and he believed it to be Roger, so he just walked on past like it wasn't his business. And I guess that's the difference between the 80s and 40 years later, huh? We wouldn't just, I don't know. I don't know anybody that would just walk on past, but he didn't really feel good about it. So to this day, it's still an open case, though nobody in his family is alive, so nobody's pursuing it or pushing the police to do it. The chief of police, who's no longer the chief of police, was the original detective, but his name's Blair, and he was the original detective on the case. He talks a lot about it, but the truth is somebody knows. Somebody knows somewhere, and 40 years later, any one of those kids that went to school with him, any of these people, they should talk. They should come forward. Mr. Posh, if you did it, come forward. Anybody, you know. Nobody, you need to clear your conscience as much as anybody else needs to. Whoever did whatever happened. If that wasn't the case, and he really did pass on his own want, I just don't believe that because of this hunter. There are some other speculation, like maybe he wanted to make some money. I mean, he did do odd jobs. Maybe he started selling marijuana. Maybe he got in with some bad people. There's a lot of theories to this cold case, but it still is actively open, still is actively going on. So if anybody hears anything, maybe you have an aunt or an uncle, grandparent, somebody who has talked to you about it just in their lifetime. I mean, here, and a lot of the people that live here now have lived here their entire lives, the older people. They know everyone. They've heard stories all around. Bring it up to your grandparents. Bring it up to your aunts and uncles. See what their take is on it. Maybe we can get some information on a cold case. Somebody saw something and somebody knew something. There are rumors that he was talking to two strangers outside of the school just shortly after he deposited his books. There's some holes in that story. Not everybody believes that's what went on, but you know, there's just not many answers to anything right now. And it's been 40 years, you guys. If we're going to find out anything, I mean, enough time has passed. I think it's more the community and the people that knew him from the community that probably need the answers since his parents are gone. But I'm going to get a little contour up in here. That is this week's Cold Case with Ctina. I hope you'll join me again for some more Colorado cold cases. We'll still be bringing you Folklore Fridays as well. I just really wanted to touch base on some of these cold cases that I've found in my searches. It's really pretty remarkable, honestly. Get a little powder on this face of mine. A little blush. And for right here in where we live in Delta County, I mean, there's just not a lot of cold cases or a lot of things that happen down here. So for something to go unsolved and just be rumored for 40 years, somebody just isn't talking. Somebody definitely knows. That I am convinced. So if you know anything about Roger, if you've heard anything about Roger, if your grandparents, your friends, if anybody's talked about it, let's get it out there. Let's see if we can find an answer. Let's see if I can get this mascara on in 30 seconds and say goodbye. Thanks for hanging with me here today, guys. BFF Beauty YouTube channel. Keep looking for Tara's Attempt It's. Definitely keep watching for Folklore Friday. And now the newly added Colorado Cold Cases with Ctina. Thanks for watching, y'all. Have a wonderful night.